the pumpkin pie pants. The first thing I'm going to do is take a look at my pattern. Now you notice this isn't a ruffle leg pattern, it's a plain pattern. And what I love about these patterns is it's a front and a back put together. The side seam would be right here. Now if you have a pattern that has a front and a back, I want you to tape that side seam together. Even if there's a curve that comes this way and that way, just pretend it's not there. Tape those together and it takes out one step for the elastic waist pants. Second thing I'm going to look at is this hem. Okay, I've got a hem right there. I know that that's going to roll up. Now I'm going to determine how big I want that ruffle, how many inches I want it. And you can take your ruler and look and see what you think. I think a 3-inch ruffle would be plenty on a little tiny girl, maybe even a 2-inch ruffle. It's up to you, but I'm going to go 3 inches on mine. So I'm going to mark that. I've got that marked. All I'm going to do is take it and fold it up and stick a pin in it so it stays in place. What I am going to have to make a mental note of is that I'm going to have to add seam allowance to this piece of fabric. So I need 5/8 added to the bottom here to sew the ruffle to it. Have some tape here. I'm just going to go ahead and add that 5/8, and my paper wasn't big enough, long enough, whatever. Just cut it up, stick it over here, and tape it down. And then I'm going to take my ruler and measure that 5/8 in. So it's right there, 5/8, over here, 5/8. I'm going to connect the dots here. And all I'm going to do on this side is continue that down. Continue that down. Now I have my pattern. For this pattern, one leg is going to be yellow and one leg is going to be green. So I've single layered my fabrics on top of each other. Now I'm getting ready to pin, and with all patterns you need to measure your grain line to your selvage. So I'm going to stick this pin in, check it, and I've got right at 6 1/8 there. So this, I need 6 1/8 as well. I'm going to move it just a little bit to make sure it's there, and then I'm going to pin it in place. Now that it's all pinned down, I'm just going to go back and cut it all out. Now for the ruffle. I know that it's going to be 3 inches wide, but I need to know the length. And the rule that I like to use for adults is ×3. Whatever this measurement is, ×3. But that's for an adult, and this is a very little person, so I'm only going to do it ×2 this time. So I have 10.5 inches, so I'm going to make it 21 inches long ruffle. And I'm going to do that ruffle ×6 instead of by 3 because I'm going to fold it half and then the bottom will already be finished. To make my ruffle, first of all, I'm using a washable marker. This is not what I recommend, but you can see it a lot easier on the camera. I would use a piece of chalk or a washable pen. So I'm going to come down to 21 inches and mark on this side. I'm going to measure down the ruffle ×2, right? So it's going to be 3 5/8 for the ruffle, then another 3 5/8, which is going to take this ruffle down to 7 1/2. Okay? I'm going to measure over here to 21 inches. 7 1/2. Okay? And what I'm going to do is simply connect the dots. That's why I like to use my L square. And that's my pattern. The first thing I'm going to do is take that fabric that we made for the ruffle and fold it in half. Okay? I'm going to take a piece of dental floss and I'm going to lay it right in that little groove right there. And I'm going to line up my presser foot with the edge of my fabric. And I'm going to take that, and all I'm going to do is make a very large, very wide zigzag back and forth over this piece of dental floss. And if you keep that dental floss right in that little groove, you won't have any problem zigzagging back over top of it. Okay? Now, you can see that zigzag right across there. Now, all I have to do to gather it is take that dental floss and pull. I've got my pants and I've got my ruffle. I'm just going to turn my ruffle up onto the pants. I'm going to pin on this side. And then I like to pin on this side. I like to wrap one side of my dental floss around a pin so it won't go anywhere. And that way I can pull the other side. And all I'm going to do is pull it until I get the wrinkles, the consistency that I want. Or the ruffles, not the wrinkles. See, when it fits, now I'm just going to smooth those out, get them all the way across, and sew that down. Now, I had every intentions of just letting this be my pants leg right here. It's cute as can be, I love it, but I found this polka dotted bias tape, and I just had to add it. I'm a sucker for trim. So what I like to do is just add some Steam-A-Seam, which is a package you can buy. They only sell it at Joann's here in Atlanta. I don't know about other places. And all you do, it's just double stick tape. You seam it into place, just rip it, rip the paper, it leaves the goo right there. And I'm going to stick this binding down. It could be ribbon, it could be rickrack, whatever you like. I'm going to sew that iron that into place. Then I'm going to go back and I'm going to sew on either side with a tiny black stitch up this side and down that side. Now what you're going to do is take your pattern pieces and lay them right on top of each other like you always do when you're sewing. Right sides are pretty sides together, and I'm going to pin the crotch because that's what I'm sewing up right now. And the crotch is the J shape. Okay, we're going to sew both J shapes, making sure the notches match on the front and the back. Okay, so everything's sewn up, all nice and neat, all the way. The crotch is sewn, and then I put a zigzag in. If you don't have a serger, that's a great way to finish the edge so it's not going to unravel when you're washing. Now what I'm going to do is take this, open it up, and I'm going to do the legs. I'm going to put the crotch to the crotch. I'm going to put this to this, the binding to the binding, the bottom of the ruffle to the bottom of the ruffle, and I'm going to pin that whole leg all the way across and sew it up. I've got my crotch all pinned up all the way across from ruffle to ruffle, and now I'm just going to sew it up. Okay, we have the cute little pants. Now it's time to add the waistband. For your elastic, what I want you to do is measure your child's waist. My little girl's waist is about 16 inches. So I'm going to actually subtract an inch from that and do a 15-inch piece of elastic. Okay? And the first thing I'm going to do is sew this elastic together right there, making a full circle. We're not going to do a casing, and we're going to do a factory method of putting an elastic. So I've measured my elastic, and it's a little over 1/2 inch. If your pattern calls for 1 1/4 inch to be folded over and cased, what I want you to do is cut the extra off, meaning this is about 5/8. I'm going to subtract 5/8 from 1 1/4, and I'm going to cut off that extra. And then I'm going to add my elastic. So now I'm going to pin the center back where I sewed together on the elastic to the center back of my pants. And you'll know it's the center back because you can look at the notches on the inside. If it has 3 notches, it's the back. If it has 2 notches, it's the front. This is the front. So I'm going to take it to the back. All I'm going to do is pin that in place. Now I'm going to find the center front, and I'm going to pin it to the center front. I'm going to find the side seam, and you don't have side seam in these pants, so you're going to find the side seam of your pants as well, and you're going to pin it to the side seam. Okay. And, of course, the other side seam. Alright, now I have that whole piece of elastic pinned into that little tiny waist. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this to the machine, and I am going to leave about 1/4 inch of my, I'm going to put my elastic about 1/4 inch below the top of this fabric waistband, okay? And what we're going to do is actually pull while we stitch and zigzag this piece of elastic onto this fabric. Okay, when I sew this, what I'm going to do is, you can see right here, I'm going to pull that until the elastic is straight, okay? And that may take a little bit of work depending on what kind of elastic you got. While I'm doing that, I'm also pulling the back. And I've got this on a zigzag. You can see my 1/4 inch is hanging out. I've got it on the zigzag, and I'm going to be zigzagging back and forth over the top of the elastic onto the fabric. I'm back stitching, just like always, and then I'm going to pull and sew. Now as you can see, I have that all stretched out. My elastic is still nice and stretchy in there. And it's all gathered down. Now all we're going to do is flip it down. We're going to pull and stretch again. And we're going to take a little stitch right along there below the elastic on that 1/4 of an inch that we left to sew it in place. Okay. And I'm going to do just a regular old straight stitch here. And there you have it, the pumpkin pie pants.